Last year I showed you how to make a tree costume, but this year I'm going way more political, because I'm going to make a teabag costume. I know teabags are all in the news these days, and I figured, hey, I want to be, in a big party, so I'm going to be a teabag this year. I just went to the fabric store, it's right behind me, and I got 3 yards of white fabric. That's about a yard wide. So with that fabric, which cost me, $12, I am going to make the teabag. If you look at how a teabag is made, it's like a big tube of paper, and it's been folded after it's been turned into a tube. But first, it was a tube, and that tube is what holds all the tea in. So first, I'm going to take the fabric I just bought and stitch it into a very long tube. And sadly, I don't have a sewing machine, so this is going to take me a little while. So I finished stitching my 9 yards of fabric into this big long tube that's going to be turned into a teabag. And I'm going to turn it inside out to hide my stitching a little bit on the inside. I've laid out the tube on the floor, and I'm going to go ahead and fold the top so it looks like a teabag. I'm actually going to take a coat hanger and use that to make the teabag keep its nice, very teabag-like shape on the top. So I'm going to cut the coat hanger, cut the hanger part off, and just use the rest of it as wire. You want to bend the coat hanger so it looks like the top edge of the teabag. You can see I've laid out my coat hanger on the fabric. I have put the stitching in the middle of the teabag. And now I'm going to fold my piece just like the top of a teabag is folded. If you look at a teabag, they're almost always folded the same way. Now don't worry if this is looking a little ugly, you can trim it up later. But if you look at the top of a teabag, this is folded the same way as the teabag. So when I get it in the position I want it, I'm just going to pin that coat hanger in place and then sew right along the edge so the coat hanger is nicely kept in place. So I sewed up all along this edge to create the shape of the top of the teabag. And now I'm just going to put a few small stitches in either side, here and here, to hold the fabric in place so it maintains this really nice teabag top shape. I put stitches here and here to hold that in place, but as you can see, if you stand up, all this falls out from underneath it. So you have to take this side, and you can actually either stitch them or pin them to each other underneath. So I've gone ahead and pinned up the pieces that hang out from underneath. Now I'm going to go ahead and just cut along here to try and make this look a little neater. So I'll just take some scissors and cut right along there. I have the top of the teabag ready, but now I need some leg holes so I can actually wear this thing. And I'm actually just going to cut right along the bottom. I'm going to cut one pretty substantial leg hole that both my legs will go through. I think it's going to make it a lot easier to walk to have just one leg hole rather than 2. So I laid it out, it's nice and flat. I can see very cleanly where the bottom is. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut straight across the very bottom of the teabag. Every teabag needs its tea, so I'm going to stuff each side with a bunch of brown paper bags that I have shredded in my paper shredder, and I think it looks a lot like tea. So this will will really make this look like a tea bag rather than a ghost costume or something. And I'm just going to go ahead and pour in all this stuffing. So I've filled up the front half with half of the tea that I'm making, the paper, and now I'm going to stitch it closed so that when I put in the second half, it's not as big a mess. You want to stitch the bottom of this really tightly because this is where all the weight from all the paper is going to be, and it could easily give out. I stitched up the front side after putting in the stuffing, and now I'm going to just fill up the back side with stuffing, and then I'll have to stitch that close as well. Again, be careful not to make too big a mess. I finished sewing up the bottom, and as you can see, it really looks like a tea bag now. And the last thing I have to do on this part of the costume is cut a slit along the back here so my head can come through. So I cut my head hole. As you can see, it's got to be pretty big. I mean, your head needs to fit through it. So I made mine a little V. You can probably make yours whatever shape you feel most comfortable with. Before I put it on and really test it out, I want to sew this up because this fabric isn't very strong, and especially on these corners right here, I've got to do a lot of reinforcing so that the rip doesn't continue on out and ruin the whole costume. So I've stitched up the final stitches actually on the teabag part of the costume, and as you can see, the neck is now finished, and I can easily put my head in there, and I've actually tried it on. It looks pretty cool. But before I show you the complete costume, there's one last piece that you need to do, which is the tag on the teabag. And what I've gone ahead and done is just made a printout that says teabagger 100% full of it, and that's going to be my tag. So now I've cut down a piece of cardboard to the size of my label, and I'm just going to use a glue stick to glue them together. I'd buy a dollar glue stick at the dollar store. So I finished gluing my label, and it's looking pretty good. And I put these two holes in it that are pretty much equidistant in the middle, and I'm going to use that. I'm just going to take my needle nose pliers to make the holes bigger so I can fit the rope I have through them. And I'll pass the rope in one, out the other. The knot on the top part is actually really simple. It's just like how so many necklaces are tied. It's got two double fisherman knots. I hope you can see them. And that's literally all I need to mount it on my head. I used a coat hanger to make a little staple that I'm going to use to attach my rope, the teabag itself. And it just needs to go through this top part right here. It can go all the way through to the inside, actually. So I've used a piece of coat hanger to make a staple to go in and hold the rope in place on the fabric part of the costume. When you put this in and puncture the fabric, make sure to leave it in because it's very hard to get it back through all those layers of fabric. But if you look at a tea bag, it just looks like this. It comes out on this side, it hangs out a little bit, and then it goes back down over. So I'm actually just going to attach it with the same method that's used in a tea bag and bend my staple onto the rope. Well, I finished my costume. I put it on. You got to wear all white underneath it. You can see I'm wearing a white shirt, and I actually went out and got white tights because I think nothing's funnier than a dude in tights sometimes. Anyways, I hope you like my costume. If you have any comments or questions about how to make it, just comment below. Or if you want to see me, I plan on going to the rally to restore sanity down in DC this weekend. And I will also be going probably around the Halloween parade in New York City. I hope to see you, and if you see me, don't be afraid to come up and ask to get teabagged.